I had to drop something.
Right.
And the reason I dropped the X-Men, and Jack went off it, not because we thought it was less of a strip,
Right.
but there were so many characters it took a little longer to write.
Right.
So I just gave it up because it was the toughest one to do.
Right.
A couple years ago, I made a video detailing my pitch for a perfect X-Men movie. One that stayed true to the characters we fell in love with in those comic book pages when we were kids, while also bringing them into the modern filmmaking format. And to my surprise, you guys loved it. I get comments all the time asking about X-Men Part 2 and when it'll be released, and seeing as it's been over 2 years, almost 3 at this point, I think it's more than due time. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Like, seriously, it's a good one, and this movie follows those events very closely. Let me remind you to subscribe and like the video, please, thank you. And with all of that being said, here is my pitch for X-Men Part 2. We open in the POV of a man. He frantically looks around the room to see countless machines and test tubes filled with different organic matter. He turns his attention down at himself to find his torso completely opened, his organs exposed. Mr. Sinister enters the pained man's sight. His pale white skin and glowing red eyes are distorted through blurred vision. You'll be perfect in no time. The year is now 1985, and a young boy named Bastion sits at his desk. A bright TV screen illuminates his face. On the screen, there's a news broadcast. Senator Kelly debates Charles Xavier on a controversial topic. That doesn't make any sense. How can you expect humans and mutants to live side by side? It sounds like a fairy tale, Professor. It's not a challenge, Senator. It's quite simple, really. Mutants are no different than you. We are all the same. We are flesh, we are blood, we are bones. We're all the same race, the human race. Senator Kelly lifts a picture from the table. It shows a mutant with blue skin and a demonic look. Human? How can you call this thing human? His name is Kurt, and he was born to human parents, same as you and I. Declaring him as non-human is blatantly disrespectful. The audience boos Xavier. They throw offensive names and derogatory terms at him. Xavier opens his eyes and takes a deep breath. He slowly puts the Cerebro helmet on his head. We're in the present day, inside of the Cerebro chamber. Xavier uses the device to enhance his telepathy to find all mutants around the world until he finds something. A cluster of thousands of mutants on an island isolated off the coast of Indonesia. He tries to narrow in, but he's stopped before he can get a closer look. Then a woman's voice. You're invited, Charles. You and your X-Men. And what is this invitation for? The woman gives a posh, dry laugh. Oh, Charles. Dress your best. We wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself, would we? With that, Charles loses the link and the woman's voice is gone. Shortly after this, we're in the meeting room. Cyclops enters. You wanted to see us, Professor? Take a seat, Scott. Cyclops sits and the rest of the team flood in. Jean Grey, Beast, Storm, Gambit, Rogue, and Kitty Pryde. After another minute or two, the final member enters. Lorna Dane, Polaris. Xavier tells the team about the island he located and the message he received, wanting to know what the others think about it. Storm questions why they didn't know about this island before, but Xavier isn't sure. There could be a telepathic block from the woman who sent the invite. Rogue mentions how surely this is a trap, but Xavier says he's inclined to believe that the woman was being truthful. Cyclops remains hesitant. Xavier tells him that apparently they need to be dressed their best, and Cyclops reminds everyone that this isn't just a reconnaissance mission. They're gonna show these people who they are. In the backyard of the X-Mansion, the ground begins to shake before opening. The Blackbird rises to the surface. Inside, the team is adorned in lavish suits and dresses, much different than their usual uniforms. Beast sits in the cockpit as he tells everyone to fasten their seatbelts. Lorna pauses, her breathing getting heavier. She reluctantly straps herself in, but she's slowly losing her composure. Her anxiety levels rise as we enter a flashback. We're on a commercial airline. A young Lorna, maybe 8 years old, sits by the window. She wears headphones and blasts music to drown out the sounds of her parents fighting next to her. They fight about something and she doesn't quite understand it, but things go wrong when her father admits to Lorna that she isn't even his daughter. This causes Lorna to snap. She screams when suddenly the roof of the plane is ripped off. The passengers cry out in fear as we cut to black. We're now in Lorna's POV. She breathes heavily in pitch darkness until she hears voices approaching. Just then, large amounts of rubble are lifted from her as Jean Grey uses her telekinesis to move them. Cyclops reaches his hand out to her. Don't worry, you're safe now. We're back inside of the Blackbird. The jet lands on an overgrown launch pad and the team exits. When they step out, it's as if the island knows they've arrived. The grass, trees, and flowers all move to greet them, turning towards our heroes, welcoming them. They gaze out into a vast jungle, and as if on cue, the landscape shifts, creating a long path for them. Cyclops takes the lead, and the team begins their journey through the jungle. Eventually, they reach a large platform area surrounded by giant marble pillars. The architecture is intricate and modern while also blending perfectly with the environment. room. In the center is a giant table with chairs surrounding, and sitting in those chairs is the council, and on this council are faces of those we all know. Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Nightcrawler, and Mystique all sit, discussing amongst themselves. When the X-Men arrive, Nightcrawler notices them first. His face lights up with excitement and he teleports over them, greeting them. The X-Men are delighted to see their old friend, but they're put on edge when they notice the other three. What the hell are they doing here? Easy, Scott, they're okay. I know their appearances are off-putting, but I assure you there is no mutant violence on this island. The three other members of the council stand, greeting the newcomers. Just then we hear a familiar voice. It's the woman from before. Hello, Charles. I'm so glad you could join us. I see you've met almost everyone. Then the final member enters. Cyclops grits his teeth. Son of a bitch. There's no need for aggression, Mr. Summers. Please, take a seat. The council explains to the X-Men what the island is. It's a safe place for all mutants. No fear, no violence, no discrimination. The X-Men seem to welcome the idea and recognize it as a necessity. Cyclops isn't buying it though. All he sees is a group of enemies and an old friend sitting at a table. How are we supposed to believe any of this? Allow me to give you a tour. Rogue, Gambit, and Kitty all have a great time walking through the towns and speaking to their fellow mutants. Cyclops, Storm, Xavier, and Beast follow Frost and Magneto, but trailing behind them all is Lorna. Something about this place finally makes her feel like she's home. For the first time in her life, she isn't afraid of anything, even cracking a smile for the first time since she was a child. That evening, Xavier and Magneto walk through the gardens. They discuss their ideologies and how this is Magneto's perfect vision. After this, we find ourselves spread out across the island. Gambit and Rogue have a romantic dinner, and Kitty and Lorna sit by a lake talking, while Cyclops and Beast stand atop a balcony overlooking the island, discussing the situation. And finally, Jean and Frost talk in the White Queen's living quarters. Jean believes in helping everyone and anyone, no matter what, but Frost has a different mindset. She believes in helping those who deserve it. If someone needs to be saved, they have to prove that they're worth saving. Then we close in on the conversation with Cyclops and Beast. Cyclops doesn't fully trust the place, and Beast encourages him to take it in at face value. He's done the calculations, and there's more than a 95% chance that this place is legitimate. Cyclops admits that it won't be in character for Magneto to manipulate this many helpless mutants for his own gain. That night, we're at the Hellfire Gala, the event the X-Men were invited to in the first place. There's a giant event in the Grand Ballroom. The night is peaceful, and it's a great time, honestly. It's the first time in years that the X-Men have actually been able to let their guard down. Then Lorna decides to get some fresh air. She looks at the stars when she notices something. A fleet of bright lights piercing through the night sky, headed straight for the island. Just then, a giant explosion goes off, and the ballroom is blown to pieces. The lights blast down into the ground, revealing thousands and thousands of sentinels. Without missing a beat, the machines begin demolishing everything in their path with one goal in mind: exterminate all mutants. After a moment, the X-Men emerge from the building's wreckage. Mostly everyone seems to be okay until they look out onto the island city in flames. Hundreds of mutants die in the attack, and the X-Men fight off the machines. This is where we see Lorna finally use her powers. It's revealed she has magnetic field manipulation, and when Magneto notices her fighting off the Sentinels, he can't help but realize that she has the same mutation as he does. Hours later, the devastating assault is nearly over. Xavier then notices a group of mutants trapped inside of a building, and a Sentinel is approaching. Xavier quickly jolts out his hand, halting the machine in its tracks before it can fire a blast of lethal energy. Xavier's telekinesis isn't very strong, but he's able to hold it back just long enough for the civilians to escape. Then the Sentinel slowly turns its head towards Xavier, locking its target. Xavier's telekinesis begins to give out, and the Sentinel raises its hand. It charges up energy. The X-Men see this, and they cry out. They rush to Xavier's rescue, but it's too late. Xavier looks at his students, and a tear falls from his eye. To me, my X-Men. In the following days, the X-Men try their best to find survivors, but the casualties are too great. The Sentinels outnumbered the mutants 3-1. A funeral is held for Charles, and the team grieves. His will and testament is read, with Xavier leaving his assets and the X-Men to Scott and Jean, placing his full trust in them to lead the team. After this, we find ourselves back on Genosha, with the X-Men and the Council. They accuse the X-Men of bringing the Sentinels to the island, and Frost declares the X-Men banished from the island. Magneto tries to tell her that it wasn't their fault, but the Council votes in favor of the banishment. Lorna sits by Xavier's grave at the X-Mansion, and behind her, Rogue approaches. She sits with her, and the two discuss the impact Xavier had on both of their lives, how they both felt like they had nothing and no one until they were welcomed by him. He gave them purpose again. In the war room, Cyclops lets out his anger on the training robots. Xavier's final words ring through his head on a loop. Jean tries to reach out to him, but he's unresponsive. He doesn't know how else to manage his grief besides drowning himself in training and work. Down in the lab, Beast runs tests on recovered Sentinel technology. As he does this, he picks up a faint faint signal leading to an unknown location. They're gonna find where this leads. Then we get a tone shift. We're following Sebastian Gilberti, a government worker who firmly believes in anti-mutant rhetoric. He goes about his day as normal, and we realize that we're 5 years in the past, and we're during the events of the first film. The X-Men are currently fighting Mr. Sinister in their climactic final battle. When Sinister dies, Sebastian hears his voice in his head, an activation message. As if in an instant, Sebastian's entire personality changes. He walks out of work and heads straight for what would become the wreckage of Sinister's island lab. When he arrives, it's ruined from being ravaged by Storm's hurricane. He enters and the lab awakens. Plans for Sinister's failsafe are laid out, revealing Sebastian was the man being worked on in Sinister's lab in the opening. The plans are labeled Project Bastion, and with that, underneath the lab, thousands of Sentinels awaken, ready to be put to work. Magneto sits in his living quarters in what's left of Genosha. He speaks with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver about how he's feeling and what their stances are on everything. He then tells them about how they aren't his only children. He never thought he'd find his other daughter, but he knows now that she found her way to the X-Men. And with this, he heads off to the X-Mansion. When he arrives, Jean lets him inside and he speaks with Lorna. They discuss how Magneto abandoned her when she was just an infant. She was his firstborn and he wasn't able to take care of her. He was too deep into his crusade for mutant kind. Lorna tries to forgive him, but she can't bring herself to do that yet. He understands, but he offers his hand out to her. She can be by his side in Genosha. She can come with him and her siblings, and Lorna thinks about it, but she doesn't have an answer yet. Back on Genosha, the Council sent the info by Beast and Cyclops of where the attack originated from. They also offer to infiltrate as a strike force as a show of good faith to get back into the good graces of the island. The Council makes a decision. While Frost, Nightcrawler, and Magneto support the offer, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Mystique decline. Frost steps up and gives a speech on why the X-Men could be useful. While they aren't loved by the public, they're definitely in a better light than the rest of Genosha's population. Maybe if the X-Men are their allies once more, it can garner sympathy for Genosha, and the rest of the world would be willing to aid in assistance. After the speech, the Council votes in favor of the X-Men. We cut to the X-Men's headquarters. The team, along with Magneto, ready themselves. Cyclops pulls Magneto aside. "I've got my eye on you. One slip up, just one." His visor glows a bright red. "I can assure you our interests are aligned, Mr. Summers. Just have my back out there and I'll have yours. This time." And with that, the X-Men board the Blackbird and head off to Sinister's laboratory. They arrive on the dilapidated island and begin their search. The team reminisce about the previous battle they had there against all the clones and the Hurricane. They scour the laboratory only to find plans for Project Bastion. What the hell is Project Bastion? Probably the same thing that attacked Genosha. Just then, they hear a voice from the shadows. Bastion steps out. "Person, Scott Summers, not thing. I am a person, unlike you. You're mutants, and you will be exterminated like the disgusting pests you are." Just then, Bastion powers up and the battle ensues. It's vicious and it's quick. The living human sentinel easily brutalizes our heroes before allowing them to retreat. They stood no chance. They barely get back to the Blackbird before flying off. Bastion's still on the ground, watching them leave. Watching the jet soar out of view, Bastion heads back to the lab, where he initiates his plan. All across the world, people morph into human sentinels. Sleeper agents unknowingly fit with the same technology Bastion has. Innocent people switch on a dime into killing machines. They fly into the sky towards X-Mansion. The Blackbird lands back on Genosha. The Council awaits them, and the defeated heroes exit the jet, warning them of the coming invasion. With that, the Council and X-Men devise a plan. They note how once these people are turned into human sentinels, they're as good as dead. There's no life left in them, just machinery and orders to hunt and exterminate every mutant. After this, we're outside of the X-Mansion, completely up in flames and half destroyed. The human sentinels search each room for mutants, but the building is empty. Just then, the Blackbird slams down onto the ground, and the X-Men arrive on the scene. This is where we get our final battle. The X-Men fight off the machines alongside everyone on the Council. The battle is long and full of the iconic team-ups we all recognize. And at this point, the X-Men seem to be winning, dispatching all the Sentinels until Bastion arrives. When he does, all of the killed Sentinels merge into Bastion, making him more powerful than ever. The villain takes them all on while he has them on the ropes. He decides to kill them all in one giant blow. He forces the remaining Sentinels to burrow into the ground under the mansion, lifting the ground under the building into the air. Just before dropping it on everyone, Magneto steps up. He holds the mansion above them all, but he's slipping. Then Lorna appears next to him, using her matching powers to help her father. The father and daughter push back against Bastion, and Storm strikes him with lightning, forcing him to release his grasp on the mansion. Jean uses her telekinesis to slam him into the ground, pinning him. Cyclops helps her hold him down by fully removing his visor and letting a huge optic blast smash into Bastion, the force keeping Bastion on the ground. Magneto and Lorna raise the destroyed wreckage of the mansion above Bastion, and giving each other the signal, they drop it all on him, finally killing him. The remaining Sentinels deactivate, dead on the spot without Bastion, who was essentially their brain. Back on Genosha, the Council and the X-Men decide to merge members. Additionally, Lorna and Magneto share a tender moment where she accepts his apology and joins him and her siblings on the Council, finally feeling like she's found where she belongs. Cyclops and Magneto shake hands, putting aside their differing ideologies and understanding finally that Xavier both saw the best in them. Magneto wishes Cyclops the best of luck in leading the X-Men from here on. Cyclops tells him that if he needs anything here on Genosha, the X-Men are always on standby. You know you don't have to do this all alone, right? Yeah, I know. I have you. You have all of us, Scott. The professor believed in you, and so do we. Well, we have a lot of work ahead of us. Genosha is still in shambles, and the world still hates us. I'll follow your lead. We all will. The camera slowly zooms out to reveal all of the students from the school helping to rebuild what wasn't just a random school, but the dream of a great man, a great leader. Charles Xavier's vision lives on through them now, and the X-Men won't let him down. Thank you so much for watching. I know I kept you all waiting a long time for this one, but hopefully it was worth it. But subscribe and like the video for more, and join the Discord server. The link is in the description. That's all from me. Take it easy.